Welcome to PolyCast, a Civilization podcast focused on game strategy. Dan Q.
Makalua.
The Me and Team.
Mad Jin.
A composite show, archive segments from previous episodes that got cut due to time. Recorded for episode 206 with Dan Q, Makalua, the Me and Team, Mad Jin, and Uber Marklar.
Crispy Waffle made a Imager album that has example maps of all the different map types. That's actually going to come in handy tonight, because then we can go, that map looks like that? Ew, no.
And there's a follow-up from Yoleni, which included a number of the DLC maps.
This is totally awesome, and I wish they'd put this in a game, because the icons in the game suck.
It doesn't. It really
not have this.
Not in such a handy format because Imager.
No, in fact, at least the icon shows two different continents, and in the map, the description for the map text says one continent. I'm like, wait, what?
And now I see what tilted axis is like. Holy crap!
That one looks insane.
One half of the map is ice and snow, and the other half's eh.
It's interesting you say that. I'm looking forward to trying that tonight, actually.
Yeah, nice.
Dan's gonna come from the land of ice and snow.
He's gonna try and tilt some axes.
Does anyone spawn in there? I would have expected that would be contended area where like resources that no one else has or something.
Well, like Ice Age, except only the ice is in the north, not in the south too. That's
and
really
if you look at it, a lot of the strategic resources are in the snow, which means you're gonna have to go up there anyway. And God, that's
But I don't think it would spawn someone there. It would make more sense if it spawned everyone not there and then forced you to fight over it.
Well, we can find out and report back later.
Yeah, we've seen the map do some really weird spawn things.
Okay, can you imagine if you got stuck in the middle of the ice and had no way to get out of there?
Yeah, I feel like on that couple of little islands in the example on the map that are ice surrounded. Oh, God.
So we need a mod for icebreakers or something.
I think that would be an auto restart if anybody spawned up there.
Well, and in the north, I mean, it wouldn't be quite so bad if it was an advanced start, but you'd still have a growth problem.
Fractal comes in two formats, either Pangea or continents, so he actually should have had two images there.
Yeah, Fractal, even in Civ 4, had a lot of potential results because of that.
It is very, very random on how it generates, so it won't exactly look like a single Pangea. Though it does tend to be stringy. It tends to be a lot of stringy type, like small width area.
I didn't know the arboreal one would actually be islands. I thought it would be just a giant continent.
It's supposed to be a giant forest.
Yeah, well, the one listed for it is a bunch of forests, but on small islands, basically.
And now you all see why I hate Great Plains.
Oh, come on, it's awesome.
Too many planes. Where's my food?
Well, if you have to wait that long, and you're doing it wrong, Hun rush everybody or something.
Yeah.
And someone in the discussion on Reddit was like, hey, where's the desert-based one? That would be Sandstorm, which I'm pretty sure is DLC.
Also, that ring map is the least ringish looking thing I've ever seen. It's just a freaking square.
Well, the Civ 4 equivalent was kind of square, too.
Yeah, but Civ 4 was square. I want to make a hexagonal ring here.
Yeah, keep in mind that these are just individual examples.
Right. But either way, what we're really saying is that next game for Axis, maybe do something this kind of descriptive instead of a crappy icon that doesn't actually show the map.
Well, pictures are worth 1,000 words, especially when some of your words and descriptions are wrong. I mean, sure, the image can also be a lie, but
it gives you a better idea, which is what you're going for when trying to select a map conducive to, say, multiplayer.
Yes. And while we're talking about this, why don't we just use this as an opportunity to say trading maps?
That would be great.
Yeah.
Candace back, thanks.
Or pinging things on the maps.
Maybe the reason map trading wasn't in Civ 5, and this kind of ties into a little bit to an upcoming topic, is because Firaxis and 2K wanted there to be a more social aspect, so you'd have to actually talk to players.
What?
Explain where you were. Yeah, exactly. Yep. I'm going to go with that. I'm going to help them out in marketing. You're welcome, Firaxis. It's free. Use it or lose it.
So Civ Online gets a beta video from the developers, unlike the beta video that we saw before from somebody who wasn't a developer.
Yes.
Apparently the first round of closed beta testing for Civ Online has wrapped up, and if you're wondering, yeah, this happened a long time ago, but we keep booting this particular topic from the recording. So it's been a while since this got put up. XL Gamers went and put it together a beta video. So it's a 9-minute video, shows collaborative efforts to build up a town and the equally collaborative efforts by enemy forces to destroy it. Also, there are Dalek tanks, hot air balloons, and a large mosh pit of Roman citizens.
I like how even in our Skype list, this is funny because it basically just says,
Yeah. Damn it, Phil.
Yeah, so for people wondering, when we record these episodes, I send as an instant message who's going to introduce which topic, and I condense the title of the item, and then beside it put the name of the person who's going to introduce it. So yes, it does read, damn it, Phil.
It's so appropriate. Yeah, like, no one else could have introduced the topic with it worded that way, certainly. But okay, this is from a Reddit article. It said, damn it, Sean, you had one job. And basically it's an image of one of the debug files in Civ 5, and it has assets hash. Sean needs to set this. And then it's also boxed in that this is the final release version. So he didn't...
Sean never set this.
Yeah, Sean never set the assets hash, apparently.
This Sean actually responded in the thread.
Oh, did he?
By saying, quote, aw, shit.
I missed that. That's awesome.
Yeah, it became the top one and after a while. And the fact that this is not the first time this has been posted. But yeah, he decided to go have some fun with it. Just going to randomly point out that this is actually quite fake. Though it was actually funnier that he actually came in and messed with it. But yeah, it's complete fake, as is known somewhere later in it, because you can see his debug in the back and blah, blah, blah. That's not actually the code. This doesn't exist.
Look at some of the other stuff in the picture. It's just, basically. Yeah. There's more than one clue.
So it's actually more funny that the lead developer for Civ 5 actually showed up.
Yeah.
Yeah, like map type hell, number of members, 665 out of 666.
As if a Civ 5 game could handle that kind of thing.
Seriously.
Yeah, the actual person, as Maggie was saying, Sean Seckman from Firaxis Games, not only did he respond to it, but he also retweeted it from his own Twitter account. So good for him having a sense of humor on this.
Thanks for the laugh.
Recorded for episode 210 with Dan Q, the Me and Team, Mad Jin, Darkest Onion, and Eek.
Can I get a physical copy of Beyond Earth? Enkidu, I'd really love to know if I can buy a physical copy of Beyond Earth. While it is great having patches and stuff online, I can't download whole games. Yeah, you can. Anyone know the situation on this?
He's in a yurt in Antarctica or something he wants to play. That's what it sounded like.
Can't equaling can't stand to.
Right, the wait.
Yeah.
Yeah. They just leave it on overnight, unless you got, like, dial-up. But I don't think they have dial-up in, the South Pole either, so, you know.
Doesn't he have a dedicated satellite connection? Like everyone?
If the answer is yes.
Yeah.
You can.
Probably.
Yeah.
I mean, they made box art for it, so.
Well,
Yeah, you probably can.
The only thing is don't go to Steam directly.
right,
Yeah,
well, it's mentioned in the thread that GameStop is offering pre-orders and stuff like that. So I assume I could walk in and get a physical copy.
Yeah, most
Good thanks.
I'd hate for them to sell me a key on a piece of paper. They've done it to me before, but it seems kind of anticlimactic to go to a midnight release and be handed a piece of paper.
Sorry, I just had this vision of, I think I could walk into a store and pre-order and get a physical copy. And you get the physical copy because it's, I would like my pre-order of Beyond Earth. Okay, here's a physical copy of it because you pre-ordered it. Thanks.
Well, I've seen some of those pre-order events where they accidentally give a few players the game months before it's out. Of an employee. I'm like, wow, that's not good.
Man, I want to say stuff in response to that, but
It's complicated, I know.
recorded for episode 214 with Dan Q, Makalua, the Me and Team, Mad Jin, and Teprock.
Will and Dave went over to DICE in Europe this year, and they did a little talk on designing beyond the historical constraints.
My name is Will Miller. This is David McDonough, and we're the co-lead designers of Civilization Beyond Earth. We're here to talk today about designing civilization without the constraints of history. Civilization has traditionally been a game about the history of mankind, and to take the franchise to the future has been a very interesting challenge for us. Civ is our flagship product at Firaxis. It's 25 years old. It's been played by millions of people, and it's enjoyed 5 major releases and 11 expansion packs. This is Civilization in the future, and obviously it's a very bold and ambitious project for us to take on. And the first thing that we did when we started thinking about this game was to break Civilization down into kind of its constituent parts and to see how it worked.
They basically gave a long talk about compare and contrast usual historical Civ stuff versus what they wanted to try to do in Beyond Earth.
All Firaxis titles, to some degree, are built on cultural myth. And that gives us a lot of exposition for free. But with Beyond Earth, we had to think about a new myth. Like, what is the myth of traveling to a new world and settling it?
So in Historic Civ, the myth provides a lot of power to the game. It provides a lot of recognition for the player, a lot of point of investment. It gets them excited about a topic that they already understand and they already love. But it's important that one of the things that makes Civ so successful is that it doesn't just give them the story again. They're not just retelling history or recreating it, but it takes that myth that they understand and breaks it into tools in a way and gives the player a toolbox with which they can remix or recreate history. The classic saw is that Civ is a game of what if, and that's what makes the game so replayable, so enticing, and so enduring. But suddenly, absent all of these recognition points, all of these sort of previously understood pieces, these tools, Civilization Beyond Earth has to depend on a new myth. We've got to invent one for the game to get going, and then we've got to invite the player in and let them continue to invent it with us.
This came down to one of the main focuses, of course, was the tech web versus the tech tree. For when it comes to players in Civilization, the main series, there's a lot of historical stuff that already exists, and you're somewhat constrained based on that. So going forward into the future, they needed to keep some form of plausibility.
We needed a way for the civilizations to progress, and in classic Civ, that's always been the tech tree.
When you examine the tech tree, you understand right away that it's extremely powerful, but it's also very limited. It has to follow the progression of history. Things have to come in a certain order for the game to make sense. And obviously this works great in Historic Civ when everything is coming in that order. But we're talking about a game that's progressing into an uncertain future. You're going to discover technologies that we haven't discovered. We're going to be making them up. And we needed a way for a player to make this process their own. Once again, having the opportunity to tell the story as they go and not have it told to them. So we transformed a linear tree to a web, where you start in the center and you grow outwards towards advanced technology. And this is more than just a mechanical change. It's not just about flexibility and sort of player customization, but it's a psychological architecture. It tells the player as soon as they see it that they are in the midst of the frontiers of science, a universe of possibility wherein all things that we are capable of learning are open to you. And by the time you've finished the game, the choices that you've made in the sequence in which you make them effectively has formed the skeleton of the tale that you're telling. It is now the structure around which you're building your myth.
Making a science fiction game, there's an expectation that you deliver some kind of high sci-fi content. And you get there in Beyond Earth, but you start from a place of plausibility. And we wanted to maintain that plausibility in incremental steps throughout the entire game. The suspension of disbelief for the player was extremely important because not only did we want to present a future that was optimistic and aspirational, but we wanted to present a future that players could sort of believe in a little bit.
They talked about starting based on building out the planet and what the planet looks like and how that's going to interact with the players, and as compared to, obviously, Earth, which is the setting for pretty much everything mainline Civ-wise.
Once we had an idea of like where we wanted the basic story to go, the sort of skeleton of the myth we were going to tell, we needed to start to find those investment points, the places that players are going to enter this tale and start to make it their own. And there's probably any number of choices we could have chosen, and maybe it was hard to find our way at first. But fortunately, we work in the studio with the illustrious Sid Meier of game industry legend, and he exists as sort of a mentor, providing all kinds of advice, proverbs, sort of like our own little private Confucius. And one of the ones that he likes to say is start with the map, or start with the board. The board is the character of the game. And if you think about historic Civ games, what you see is the planet Earth. You see it unfolding through history. And that's what you watch, and that's what you appreciate. So in this game, our entry point was going to be the New World. Only this time was our first opportunity to make the differentiation from historic Civ to future Civ. The world you're going to land on is an alien world. It's a world full of strange creatures, strange plants, things that don't exist on Earth, that couldn't exist on Earth. And just understanding, just experiencing, encountering this world from the beginning was the first indication to the player that this was going to be a new tale, and that part of the first sort of chapter of their story was going to be figuring out this world, understanding it, confronting its mystery, and determining how their civilization was going to meet it.
Obstacles in the beginning of the game, but become distinct advantages later, depending on how your game plays out. So that arc was something we spent a lot of time thinking about and wanted to make sure that it translated well into the game.
There was differences in there where they thought, okay, we can do whatever we want, but we need to still have some form of constraint for plausibility factor.
Traditionally, in Historic Civ, you get to play as a leader from history and against other leaders. And this is another one of those really evocative, sort of easily recognizable points of investment for the player. But once again, in the future, without any pre-existing characters, we had to understand that these people really represented ideas. They were larger than life. They were sort of spirits of the nation and of the time that they came from, which is why they were so evocative. And so we had to find the place in our new myth where we would draw similar characters from, for players to invest in and for players to match themselves against when they face them on the planet surface.
They came from QA.
Thank you for coming to our panel. My name is Kevin Schultz. I'm the community manager here at Firaxis Games. This is Barry Caudill, the director of gameplay development, also our manager of the QA department. And Lena Brank, who, if you've been following Beyond Earth coverage, probably seen her face on some videos. She's the lead producer for the game.
What exactly is QA?
Bug testing, general sense, open work environment, very collaborative, very collective. It is not a place to be exclusive. You want to be inclusive. It's a team effort. But there are different kinds of QA. There's publisher, there's developer. Publisher QA, they're the guys that when they find one bug, they're kind of thinking like, okay, well, there's 9 other languages that this game is in. Here's 10 more bugs. The developer is that more feedback-driven, balance-driven, finding the fun-driven kind of QA. But despite the different, say, objectives, the overall goal is the same, is to ship a great game. Communication is a huge thing.
Publishing and types of QA.
Publishing QA is really a lot about gatekeeping and making sure no crashes, no hard bugs are in the game. They come in a little later than development QA. It's not so much about feedback about how fun this feature is. It's more about, so does it work? Will it work on this PC and this PC and this PC and different setups? And for localization QA specifically, it's providing native speakers for all the different languages in which we are going to ship the game. And so we have, for example, 2K QA has German testers and French testers, Italian testers, Spanish testers, Chinese testers, Korean testers. So in different offices all over the world.
So developer QA, that's where Barry and I kind of focused in on. The great thing about it is we're in the house with the engineers, we're with the team. So there's a very direct feed. If there's a gigantic problem going on in the game, you can go right to the guy and tell them first. And that's usually what you want to do even before you write the bug, or at least in my experience. What we think and what we think should be changed in the game, and we can see those changes.
The designers, when they implement a new feature, they just walk over to the QA room and are like, so we implemented this, what do you think? Yay, nay?
Yeah.
Microprose, when I first started in QA, it was very much like the Wild West. I mean, we had 30-some testers at that time, and we were been bought by Hasbro Interactive, so we were a hybrid developer and publisher QA. So that meant that we got to test really cool stuff. Just finding the bug, just saying like, oh, it crashed, is not good enough. It doesn't help anybody. You can't go to a programmer and just say, hey, it crashed, good luck. You have to be able to go back and analyze it, and not just say, well, it happened when I hit this button. Because that may not be it. You load the save up, you hit that button again. Oh, it didn't crash. Oh, let me load 2 saves earlier. Okay, I remember I did this, and then I had diplomacy, and then this came up, and then I hit this button. And then you can go back and do that again. And basically, in QA, it's if you can make it happen 3 times in a row, that's 100%.
It also helps you kind of further your career. If you get to develop those relationships with those engineers, they'll teach you a lot. I've learned a lot from them. It also gave me an opportunity to do a lot of different things outside of just kind of bug testing.
How you go from QA that's otherwise into the gaming industry?
Different paths through QA, and it depends on where you're at. It's a very much a foot in the door position.
I mean, one thing about QA is if you get into it, there's a couple of great things about it. One is that maybe you don't know where you fit in the industry. I didn't. It wasn't until I was there and watching what people did and seeing how my skill set might match up with some of those things. Once you've identified what you want to do, there's a lot of opportunities to do that thing and prove yourself.
Fandom and feedback.
People who are very passionate about the games, that's great, but figuring out what they're trying to say is a completely different thing.
My guys know that sometimes they will get an email from me saying, like, I just checked the game out and I ran into this crash, and here's the save file, and here's the log files, and here's the... So just because my QA routes, I will always include all the relevant info I can dig up to deliver to them, so they have somewhere to start, things like that that make it easier for them. I basically learned at QA, it doesn't take me long to get that stuff together because I've done it for years.
There's always that saying of nobody wants to know how sausage is made. But I think when you're in QA, you kind of really get very deep into the how sausage is made thing, but you end up still loving sausage anyway.
So what gets you noticed?
Generally, yes, in localization QA, language skills are the first big threshold. But beyond that, also a certain methodology or methodical approach to bugs, a certain organization.
Yeah, I mean, communication, when you're in a software development team, communication is a big deal. And it's really important for QA people because basically you're going to tell somebody, some artist or some programmer, you're going to tell somebody that their baby is ugly. And nobody wants to hear that their baby is ugly, you know? And so you have to find nice ways to be like, well, it's really great the way that the eye that's off on the side of his head still kind of looks at me when I'm, you know. So you have to figure out, you know, how can I explain to this person that this thing that they just spent 20 hours on or something like that. I'm saying that there's a bug. I'm not saying that everything that they've done is worthless. Patience is a thing. It's not just on a day-to-day basis with your bugs or whatever, but patience is something that if you're going to be in QA, I need them to be able to be happy and productive in that job for as long as it takes to get noticed to move to something else. If you were at Publisher QA or something like that, there are ways to move up and stay in QA. There's nothing wrong with that whatsoever, but if that's the kind of thing that you like, if you don't think to yourself, well, I really want to go be a producer or a writer or whatever, there are ways to get noticed and work your way up the ranks, and maybe you're managing multiple projects now, or maybe you've moved up into a director level position in QA. There's opportunities there.
Recorded for episode 215 with Dan Q, Makalua, Mad Jin, Alpha Shard, and Magma Dragoon.
Top 13 tips and tricks for newbies in Civilization Beyond Earth from Gamer Ranks.
Which, by the way, is essentially anybody who is playing it from the beginning, because we're newbies.
If you've never played any Civilization game before.
Yes, she even says, if you've never played Civilization game before.
Oh, so it does. Yes.
Although I think it's fair to say, even if you have played Civilization before, even Civilization 5, Civilization Beyond Earth, at least for what she is listing here, different enough for the most part that it could apply to anybody playing the game for the first time or the first few times.
Oh, this is another list.
Yep.
She's presented it as a list, but I don't think it's in order of most important to least important. She isn't structured that way, and I certainly hope not, because...
Yeah, it's not a top list.
No, exactly. It's just for convenience purposes. Rather than bullet points, she numbered them.
Okay. Anyways.
Orbital units. Orbital units are a great way to support your city, so don't forget to incorporate them frequently into your production, especially the miasmic repulsor.
You be quiet.
I don't know who that was directed to.
He's not done yet.
Well, I know there's more that can be written there. I think the first sentence says it all to me, which is just, I think she's overvaluing that a little bit.
No, miasmic repulsor removes miasma way faster than the workers will. Miasmic repulsors, get rid of the miasma unless you go Harmony.
Well, there's that, and there's also, it depends how much miasma you have to remove, and when.
Even if you have one, it's still faster just to spam out one turn miasmic repulsor.
I guess it depends on your definition of frequently. Frequently, it's just too much of a carte blanche statement to me. It needs to be more situational than that.
Sometimes you have one-off little spots. You can't launch them in Res Repulsor for one tile.
Number 2 on the list.
In the earliest part of the game, focus on the features of the landscape and look for nearby resources, then plan your tech research based on that. For instance, if you have floatstone, you should pursue a path in the tech web to discover terraforming, which will unlock your workers' ability to improve the tiles and harness floatstone as a resource. However, try to balance this with more accessible technologies first. Don't focus on expensive techs when basic necessities still have not been met.
Makes sense.
Yeah, that's the problem there. It's like, yeah, Floatstone takes a while to get to because they have all this other stuff to check first.
Yeah, that's the one problem with Floatstone. I mean, if you're going Supremacy, you're always going to go to the auto plant anyways, because you want the extra trade route from the building. But Purity and Floatstone just seems backwards.
Well, they have the lab tank. If they want the lab tank, they need the Floatstone.
Yeah, yeah.
You don't really get it that early, though.
No,
You don't
it
really
takes a
need
while.
to improve it right away.
Yeah, I mean, even if you're going with...
Well, it gives you energy if you improve it, but I guess you
Yeah.
just put down a generator instead.
Yeah.
Number 3.
Don't worry about aliens to start off. They'll leave you alone if you leave them alone, which allows you to focus on producing useful buildings for your civilization instead of military units. However, steer clear of nests, which makes them more likely to attack.
Yep, okay.
Yeah.
Quite true.
That makes sense.
You get on their lawn, they'll get on your lawn.
Except for siege rooms. Don't ignore the siege rooms.
Would you like all of your roads chopped up early on?
Would you like your colony squished?
Not even don't attack them. Normal aliens, like every alien except for the siege room, will stay out of your culture borders, or if they do pop into your culture borders, they won't attack your workers if they're in the culture borders and you haven't shot at them. The moment you shoot at them, then they're more likely to go after your stuff. But siege worms ignore that. Siege worms just move. And if you happen to be in the way, regardless of never touching any alien, it will still eat your worker and whatever else was in the way.
Yeah, they're an equal opportunity squisher.
Yeah.
And outside your borders, wolf beetles and stuff will kill civilians just because that was the tile they happened to move into.
Well, yeah, if you leave your borders, then all bets are off.
Of course, you can shoot the aliens from 2 tiles away or with a city, and then you won't get any penalty from them at all.
Number 4?
During your first few playthroughs, you may wish to make things a bit easier on yourself by choosing a map with many small islands as opposed to bigger masses. This will prevent contact with other civs in the initial stages of the game. No, it won't.
Well, okay, it prevents, I mean, you will meet everybody as soon as they land, obviously.
Military contact. with
But
other
yeah,
civs,
military
Yeah.
contact with the other, with the rest of them, yes.
I think there's an important operative word missing there.
allowing you to focus on building tech and amassing culture instead of pouring resources into developing and maintaining an expensive military. This will help conserve your energy, which is then used to purchase military units later, should the need arise.
Though trade routes are harder when you're on an island space map unless you purposely go for the ultrasonic fence protection for trade routes. Because if you're on an island map, you get water-based nasties, and they will just wander around and happen to eat all your trade routes without you even knowing that they're there.
Yeah, they're a bit more aggressive than their land cousins.
Mm-hmm. Not to mention you have to actually go out into the water to find those trade routes in the first place.
And if your first few playthroughs you want to play domination, well, you might want to have most everybody on the same landmass.
Yeah, I would probably say Terran map, so the continent style is probably the better option of the two, because you don't have all the AIs on your same landmass, but you also have the ability to play peacefully for the first while, unless somebody lands 5 tiles away.
That never happens.
Never.
I tell good jokes.
Speaking
of number 5.
Try to get an alien unit early on and set them to explore. They're unaffected by the miasma and can open up visibility in new areas without taking damage. You can gain an alien unit as part of an excavation from an explorer unit. Look for bones in the desert.
By an alien unit, I think he really means get the drone.
Yeah, drones are good. Although manticores for early exploration still okay because they have extra movement and they'll survive getting shot at a little bit better. But yeah, drones can go into water.
Anyone else notice that, like, if you dig up an alien, other aliens will always try to kill it?
Yeah.
They do. They don't like it.
You smell funny.
You bad. You turn sides. What are you doing?
They're 6. Develop the terraforming technology and then build terrascapes as often as possible. They're expensive, but worth it.
Debatable. I don't agree with this.
It's great for some tiles that are otherwise kind of meh, you know, you can improve the function of the city, but they are expensive. If you start overbuilding them like the AI does, you will run out of energy so fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think also this is one of those tiles that's kind of middle line versus like, you know, you can build your academy and get like 5, 6 science, or you can get certain food tiles up to 5, and you can get other, you can get titanium up to 6, so it's good to, have a better balance.
Yeah, for those wondering, by the way, 6 energy cost for +2 food, +2 production, +2 culture.
Unless you go prosperity, in which case you can get +3, +3, +3, and then you can go put terrascapes on deserts and tundra primarily, and then if you put it on tundra, it'll be +1 energy. If you put it on deserts, it'll be +1 food, because the vivarium and the mass digester work with terrascapes. So they can provide a lot, and if you're in the middle of a desert and it doesn't have a resource on it, or even if it does and you just don't like the resource, then yeah, you can get more yields just in total. You can get up to 10 output on that. And of course, it's a great source of culture that you don't necessarily have. And it converts deserts and tundras into awesome places, especially if it's snow. The only thing worth building on snow is terraforming.
Yeah, terrascape the entire Alaska or something.
Yep. Alaska must be terrascaped. But otherwise, yeah, that maintenance of 6 is very, very expensive. So I hope you have a ton of trade routes and or generators or other such
They're
things.
definitely worth them in small quantities, but if you go mass spamming, you will regret it.
Less is more.
Yes.
Or more is more.
7. You no longer need to use workboats to farm resources on the water.
Yay!
Not really a tip or trick, but okay.
But okay.
Well,
Yeah,
it's an important thing to remember.
Yes, it is. It's different.
Yeah, you don't have to build a separate special unit. You can just send your regular worker over there and boom.
It's like the new and improved Japan in Civ 5, only all the time.
Yes, this is one of those mechanics that should be backported to Civ 5. Stupid workboats.
First we got rid of transports, now we got rid of workboats. This is good.
8. Purchasing units and building is now done in the city menu, not the production management menu.
I raised an eyebrow at that. I'm like,
always open all the time.
Yeah.
In Civ 5 too.
Yeah.
And you still have to click a button to purchase.
What I will say, though, when I go into the city menu by default, I would like it to show me the buildings. I shouldn't have to click that box that says, show me that stuff. That's just an aside.
But I don't
always
like the fact that it's so huge.
I always go into the city menu to purchase.
This is kind of one of those minor things as compared to some of the other stuff.
Yeah, it's more UI, not gameplay, whereas
Yeah.
the rest of it is pretty gameplay-based.
Number 9!
Whereas in Civ 5, you spend the first several turns battling barbarians and searching for ruins, and archaeology isn't discovered for quite some time, in Beyond Earth you send out explorer units who carry expeditions for civilization bonuses. Use them often, however, approach with caution as resource pods may be guarded by or occupied by alien forces, and if you plan to move several turns ahead without knowing what is in the surrounding area first, you may accidentally attack.
Okay, that last part right there in that last sentence.
Is a bug that needs to be fixed. Oh my god.
Say bad words.
Many bad words.
Yes, I have disembarked my explorer directly into a siege room's face before. And it didn't tell me it was a bad thing to do.
Number 10. After building a city, try to get the trade routes up and going as soon as possible. You want your cities to be generating resources for you immediately. As soon as one city is stable and generating adequate energy and health, you should start a new city or conquer another.
Yeah.
There's more stuff here, but that pretty much covers it.
Basically, trade important.
And expansion important, which is tied to trade.
When you found a new city, get a trade depot up. It makes things go faster.
Faster's better.
Number 11.
Sometimes I like to join a war with an opponent across the map with no intention of ever fighting them. They're often too far away to attack and will offer up a city to stop the conflict. Then you get a free city without sending over a military unit. Pretty sweet. Except it means the AI is really bad and shouldn't be doing that.
And a free city isn't necessarily just a free city.
Sometimes the crappy one.
Is that city really going to help you do much of anything if it is surrounded by another factions? Are you really that much farther ahead? Was that really worth the while? Was that really worth, for instance, potentially not having trade routes with that civilization so you're at war? Well, I know this is too far away to attack, but I don't know. I guess unless you run and really get buddy-buddy with the person who asks you to declare war, or you join in on a war on another faction to improve your diplomatic relations with them, I think that's a bit of diminishing returns there.
Mm-hmm. Number 12!
You should rarely, if ever, set your units to auto-explore. In the water, your naval units will come up against sea dragons, who will almost always attack. Explorers will become poisoned by miasma or run into alien nests and die. Workers should be maintained carefully and their every movement micromanaged. Plan every unit's move.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I don't automate anything.
Don't use automation. It's bad.
If you're really that tired of micromanaging a particular unit, then just save yourself the energy and just get rid of it then.
Just delete it.
And 13.
In general, try to remember civilization is about gaining as much territory as possible to generate new resources. If you're bored and don't know what to do next, the answer is almost always start another city or conquer one. New cities mean new opportunities for growth. It also hinders the expansion and growth of other civilizations, thus better securing your win. Plan every battle with purpose and never attack unless you have to. Support your military with a strong economy and always send more units into a war than you actually need. And generate plenty of science to stay ahead of the other civilizations in military technology. Oh, there's a note.
I'm sure this is after point 13.
Okay.
Yeah, that's after point 13.
Okay.
As for point 13, yeah, the answer is almost always, which I think also gets to the note. If I was writing that paragraph, I might have the thing about science a little sooner in the paragraph, but...
I don't know. Something like, if you're bored and don't know what to do next, the answer is maybe
Why
play
are
a
you still
different game.
playing?
Yeah, why are you playing this game?
Why are you still in this game if you're so bored, man?
You might want to figure out why you're bored with the game.
Yeah, because it does say, if you're bored and don't know what to do next.
Yeah.
I mean, if it was an or in there, I'd say, well, if you don't know what to do next, you could
go check out forums,
go onto some Civ forums and read some strategies. But it is an and there, so
yeah.
I would think if you didn't know what to do next, you would become bored. Not that you're bored and now don't know what to do next. But no, I'm being pedantic now.
It just depends. You can be bored with the game without knowing what to do, or while knowing what to do. As for the note,
yeah, I think the first sentence says it all.
Yeah. Cities generate unhealth. Take eudaimonia, go from negative 80 to plus 170.
Pretty much. Expand generates unhealth. You can generate health by taking health techs and building health buildings and growing prosperity. Yes.
And this list that we've been going through was written by the managing editor of Gamer Ranks, Holly Green. When you're looking for tips and tricks out there, have a critical eye and don't just rely on one source to tell you one particular article to say to do this, because the next one, and so we're going to go through it more quickly, it is not as good.
Kind of bad.
I think you can just read the headings and not the rest of the text. Just the byline is enough to tell you whether or not it's good or not.
Yeah, but we have to describe that picture. It's the in-game units in Harmony. It's not the actual aliens. What the?
Yeah. Avoid the endgame aliens, Harmony people. Because they're mean.
They are mean.
Okay, whatever.
Yeah, second one. Know how you're going to win right from the beginning. Well...
You don't have to.
Well, yeah, it's debatable.
The best of plans...
Civ 5 deity. Sure, you should probably know what you're doing before you start, but B?
Third...
Don't produce too many workers too early. I don't know how you could do this.
Yeah, I've never heard
unless
of
you
this.
were doing it intentionally.
Unless everything you produced early was a worker.
Yeah.
And the screenshot is Cittadella, one tile off the coast.
Yep. Seriously. This screenshot should be, don't settle your capital one tile off the coast.
I like the next one, air quotes. Know what affinity you want for your civilization. So there's this thing called starting location and available resources.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Take a look at what's around you. Then consider doing that.
Take a look. It's on a map. I like how this is phrased. Beware of health.
Yeah.
Don't you mean beware of unhealthy? Oh no, I'm healthy. Crap.
Beware of health. Do not get healthy.
Beware of that quinoa salad. It has more carbs than you think.
It's just that being negative health is not as bad as being unhappy in Civ 5 or 4 even.
Yeah, and the text says build all the clinics and pharmacies, which actually doesn't work in the early game because it's limited by population.
Yeah. A pharmacy is actually really useful.
Yeah, they're good. You should always build them, but it's not going to cover up the...
I'm pretty sure there aren't any pharmacies though in the game.
Yeah, the Pharma Lab. I think that's what that's a reference to.
Yep. Build your pharmacies. Okay? Get your drugs. But moving on, clear the miasma. Sure. Unless you're Harmony.
Yeah.
And made it Harmony 6. Then, not as
you should be pouring it all over the place.
There's no real economic need for it.
No economic need,
yeah,
but there
but
are
there's a
strategic...
military need.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Military.
Yeah, there is a military reason for it. And, frankly, spamming miasmic condensers all over the AI's territory just for giggles. It's always... Hey, look, your trade routes are broken because you don't know how to go through miasma.
They'd have to be kind of close to you, and then maybe that's not such a good idea.
Well, to get your orbital range up, you can reach them.
Yeah, it's not a good idea to let other people be that close to you. Just kill them faster.
Yeah.
Which brings us to number 7, don't start a war.
Which
how are you going to win?
What?
So, you want to win by domination.
No wars for you.
Yeah.
Better get those cities up to level 5 before they build the surveillance web.
There's a word missing there. Don't start a war unprepared.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you go.
Don't start
And
a
it's good
war that
advice.
can't finish.
Fixed.
If all else fails, go easy.
Listen
Wait,
to your
Sputnik.
advisors.
Look, it's not Sunday morning, so get it? Easy like Sunday morning. Wow, I know. Is that how we're gonna end?
I'm just trying to.
Are there advisors in this game? I've never seen advisors.
Oh, you're reading the text from that one, yeah.
Yeah, okay, here's the text for this one because it's actually worth pointing out. Look, Civilization is a tough game to master. It's really intricate, at least it's not Crusader Kings though, and you can't learn everything in just one game. Follow your advisor's instructions. What? Don't we turn this
don't we automatically turn this off because dumb?
Yeah, or rather, the advisor that will support the victory you want to have. So, listen to your advisors, except all the ones you don't want. If you're overwhelmed, just go on easy and listen to the advice that the game itself gives, because it's pretty damn smart and helpful. That's where I.
Oh, dear.
Tile Improvements, Productions, and Research will all be advised for you if you need it. Yeah, I think that's the line that I was starting to kill myself when I was trying to read it. I'm like, what? It's not smart. It's kind of helpful, but it's not very smart.
And I'm going to point out part of the text for the last one. Under Don't Start a War, quote, I'm just a peaceful player by nature, preferring to utterly destroy with my intelligence and knowledge of art and shit.
Of art and shit?
Your knowledge of feces has helped you. What?
And art.
Did you read about the author part?
Yeah, I just did.
She's trying to make the game community less cynical.
Oh.
Sonic Boom came out.
Oh.
Recorded for episode 216 with Dan Q, Makalua, the main team, Mad Jin, and Darkest Onion.
Errant Signal. Look at Civilization Beyond Earth. An audio program on YouTube basically reviews games and discusses kind of like a very generalized idea what they're about.
The problem at the core of Beyond Earth is that it suffers from a bit of an identity crisis. Is it an offshoot of contemporary Civilization games, or is it a spiritual successor to Alpha Centauri? Is it a game that wants to look at pressing issues that affect our real future, or is this a campy sci-fi romp? Does it want to have the same gallows humor about a vaguely dystopic world that Alpha Centauri offered, or does it want something a little bit more in line with Civilization's incessant adulation of all of mankind and our collective achievements? Beyond Earth itself doesn't seem to know, and the result is a game that straddles the line on all of those questions, attempting to always be both and struggling to really achieve either.
I came across them about 5 months ago myself when they deconstructed the entire Civilization franchise in one of their videos. For me, one of my problems with them is they're borderline what I call passing judgment from a social justice perspective on some of the elements of Civilization. It's not as bad in the Beyond Earth one, mind you. It's about Beyond Earth and how it fails until about halfway through the video where it's about how it's good in some ways. For example, a strong point brought up in the video was that it has a lot of role-playing via the quest system, and it feels more like it has a story that you're crafting, that it's more putting together the civilization you want to be, as opposed to picking the one that defines you, as he feels happens in the previous Civ games.
There's actually a fair bit of expressiveness here, and I feel that you can really make an expansionist harmonizing people that have a very different feel to them than a militant society obsessed with supremacy, or a trade-heavy group interested in human purity. I talked about the slow loss of role-playing in my Civilization video, and if there's one genuine success story to celebrate in Beyond Earth, it's this return to it.
And gives a nod to the technology web.
Right, he does congratulate that.
The technology system itself has changed to accommodate this role-playing element, though I'm not sure how I feel about the results. The result is that technology is no longer a measure of forward progress. You no longer feel like you're moving from the Bronze Age to the Classical Age, but instead exploring a space of technologies in a way that benefits you and your people. And it's a really cool approach to technology because it lets you role-play while also sculpting what technologies your people would want or would be interested in having. Or it would be cool if the victory conditions didn't mostly subvert it.
Really, the problem isn't so much that he judges the game, it's just a deconstruction. It's that he kind of takes a 21st century postmodern, what'd you call it, lens to it, and judges not only Civilization, Beyond Earth, Civilization, but also human history in a negative fashion.
Your communities, colonies, civilizations, whatever you want to call them, end up feeling like they have the outward veneer of an enlightened mission of scientific discovery, when really it's just engaging in the same old nation-state-based tribalism on a new battlefield. The vision of humanity on display here really hasn't learned anything since Civilization.
Very hard to watch, because I'm like, I understand, yeah, I agree, but you're making my game suck. the more I listen. So it's hard.
Part of this construction of the way he's presented it, he is trying to get attention for what it is that he is saying.
Right.
Some of the things he's saying are very charged terminology. I'm certain that is reflecting his view, but his word choice, how he orders, like you said, it takes halfway into the video before he starts talking really about anything positive about the game at all. Whereas I think for a lot of people at that point, they've probably tuned out long before, or they've just made a decision that this is just a rant sort of thing.
Right. Well, it's like it reminded me of that person that sent in that voicemail a while back about us being pedantic on this particular program. And I just kept bringing it to mind. I wonder if he needs a few emails and on that kind of note, just to see how people are responding to what he's saying.
Apparently comments were disabled, so...
Oh, he always does that now. He's been getting hate.
Yeah, I noticed that, which was not the case when we looked at the first one.
Okay, so whose favorite series did he insult that all the fans came out of the woodwork to start doing the hate?
Everybody's. So I've been watching them, to be nice and to be fair. Anything that's AAA that could get him attention, he jumps on. Do I even conjure this person's name? He follows the same philosophy as Anita Sarkeesian when criticizing and deconstructing games. I have a message, and that message is irrelevant to the people that enjoy the series. So it's almost like it's not for people to play it. It's for people that want to think about, if they had played it, how they'd feel about what it was based on what he said.
Yeah, a lot of his criticism is more thematic than mechanical,
right.
Or a lot of his mechanical criticisms go back to the theme.
The problem is that Civilization as a game is fundamentally ill-equipped to deal with the problems it skirts with. Global warming, overpopulation, mass pollution, deforestation, these are things that the core mechanics of Civilization are sort of designed to promote. The whole idea of Civilization is that you keep expanding in all directions and consuming every resource you can until you reach a victory condition. And Beyond Earth does nothing to change that.
In other words, although this is a spiritual successor to Alpha Centauri, it tries to be too much like Civilization, and then being too much like Civilization, not enough like Alpha Centauri, and therefore it has no identity for itself, and it fails by trying to be both Civilization, traditional Civilization, historical Civilization, and, again, a spiritual successor to Alpha Centauri.
Well, no, it sounded like he thought that a game should take on some social justice warrior type stuff.
Right.
But the game doesn't.
Therefore, it's wrong from his perspective.
The game's not built to take on deforestation or global warming or anything like that. Those mechanics don't exist in the game, and therefore they don't obviously need to exist in the game.
Well, weird to me. It felt almost like he was subtly rehashing the reskin of Civ 5 in one of those sentences, and then rehashing the it's not Alpha Centauri 2, therefore it's not going to be a good game argument that was on the forums, pre-launch, after launch, during launch. It almost feels like he did a little bit of research and hung on to other people's comments.
Yeah, I think the thing about the Alpha Centauri was the way this game is promoted is to make it sound like Alpha Centauri when it's not Alpha Centauri. We don't have the backstory for the leaders and the factions, so therefore they're all cardboard cutouts. And why would these people want to be fighting each other when they don't have the backstory, when essentially the characters are supposed to evolve over the course of the game? So why would they be competing with each other? So because they are competing with each other, then apparently humanity learned nothing from what happened on Earth, and they're just essentially repeating the great mistake on the new planet because they continue to fight each other, they continue to fight the environment, and it's just going to be a repeat of what already happened in Civilization. So therefore, what is Beyond Earth really trying to accomplish? Because he says it seems like they're trying to say that this is what humanity might have to do if we continue down the current path that we're going, and it makes absolutely no statement at all because it contradicts itself again and again, and therefore the game itself is a disappointment.
Bitter dystopias were never in Civilization's wheelhouse. This is a series that loves to adulate just how great we all are. So they don't commit to anything quite that harsh. Instead, we just get an occasional slice of cynical humor that falls flat. We never really address the reality that the endgame of Beyond Earth leaves the planet looking a lot like the one we just left.
Do you guys think he didn't see the domination victory screen that goes, war never changes, to steal from the series Fallout? That actually makes a direct comment on, oh, you should feel guilty for killing everyone.
Well, I don't know if he did, but when he was talking about the victory conditions, he said, well, the domination victory condition is standard like it's always been, so we're not even going to talk about it.
Yeah, that was so dismissive. I'm like, that's how I play. Thank you.
And then he says, well, the contact victory is sort of an economic victory. And then he says, but 3 of the 5 victory conditions are tied to an affinity. Yet in order to get affinity points, you have to research a particular technology. So now what was the point of having a technology web when you should be going for these specific technologies like a technology tree would force you to do? And therefore, this whole approach to having it to be a more role-playing game is a bit constrained, because if you want to win the game, then you're going to have to go to these particular technologies, and you're going to have to be paying attention to what other civs are doing, because they could be going for a victory condition completely opposite of you, and therefore it's just like Civ has always been.
Well, here's a revolutionary thought. Imagine you were playing a game Beyond Earth, and you didn't try to win. Because you like role-playing, so you made a civilization that went to the text that you would. You stay purity, you avoid all supremacy text because ick, and harmony because ick. You may not win, but you could have a heck of a good game.
Well, no, the point of the web and the point of the victory conditions is that there's different ways to get to those conditions. Just because each of them needs certain text to win, quote unquote, for their style, those aren't the same texts as each of the other ones. And therefore, you're not all going down the same frickin' tech tree and always all getting the exact same text, which is what the standard tech model is for Civ.
Plus,
Right.
just putting
A does
this
not
out
equal B
there,
does not equal C. Yeah.
but you can take any technology you want, and there's always one victory condition available to you.
Yeah. You
If
could also-
everyone else is off the map, you win. So
Yeah.
you can take any tech then, as long as you can actually field competent units.
Well, research other people actually do avoid supremacy texts when they're going in a direction, not because they don't need them, but out of kind of a philosophical role-playing thing. I've never considered that. I just take the text I need to do whatever I'm getting to do. I don't go, I'm not touching the harmony text this time.
Yeah.
It seems like a weird thing to say.
Well, I mean, if you're fully pushing, say, purity or supremacy, then you really don't need those harmony
You probably
texts.
wouldn't. Right.
So if you don't need them, then you're not going to use them.
Well, I'm more talking about people that know that they could use one of those harmony texts, but they don't pick them because they promised themselves they weren't going harmony.
Yeah.
That's weird to me. I don't know. It's awesome for them, I guess, but I would just feel like I'm constraining myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, it just depends on how you...
Role-playing
play it.
itself is, I mean, you can do that in any game. I don't know that the game really should be designed around it, though.
Yeah. It is a strategy game. We have to remember that.
Oh, yeah, sure. I mean, if they're talking a different genre, then maybe, but, yeah.
Oh, and he also talks about victory conditions and getting raffle stomped with AI who suddenly does contact or whatever other victory.
By dismantling the linear nature of the tech tree, you no longer have a quick and easy gauge of where everyone is. That comparatively tight game arc I talked about in my Civ video is a lot less structured now. You still have the same phases, but depending on how hard and how fast the AI rushes to its victory conditions, you may find yourself at a game over screen in what feels like the mid-game because you wanted to build up and slowly go for a harmony victory while some other jerk got lucky with a ruin find and made contact with an alien race first. So checking the victory condition tracker every couple of turns is a must.
I don't know. There's that victory progress screen. You click it, and it tells you exactly what's going on. It's right there on the front of the game, on the UI. And to me, I don't think I've ever had just lost because I wasn't paying attention. Have you guys?
I'm just wondering why we're giving this guy so much attention, because, I mean, obviously he had an idea in his head that had nothing to do with the game, and he's just trying to use games as a means to being able to soapbox about whatever the hell he is actually interested in, and that nothing he actually says has anything to do with the real game itself.
Right.
So
Same
I don't
way.
know why we're wasting our time on this guy.
But I just
Okay, but I mean, I didn't feel it was a waste of time, and the reason I didn't feel it was a waste of time, and again, this is also an opinion, is that we've seen a lot of criticism for Beyond Earth, some justified and some of it not. This is a view, okay, he's not a super duper YouTube user in terms of how many subscribers he has, but when I see something like this that's out there and it's getting attention, and this is a take on why people should be avoiding Civilization Beyond Earth, and again, there's so much focus on the thematic over the mechanical, is just to bring in another perspective of how someone could be viewing Civilization, and specifically Beyond Earth, and then for us to have an opportunity to say, like, okay, here's the position, here's our counter, and now you take away from it what it is that you want to take away from it. It is only a 15-minute video, has some very broad strokes. It's not particularly comprehensive, and I do agree that I think he already had an idea in his mind what the puzzle was going to look like,
Right.
so he found the pieces to put it together.
Right.
And I think that's especially true when you look at the fact, to go again, that he starts with all of the negative and then halfway through starts giving some positives, yet then starts rationalizing, well, this is a positive, but again, back to essentially the negative that I said, it really is kind of not that good, even though I've said it's good because of X, Y, and Z.
Right.
It's not that Beyond Earth is a quote-unquote bad game. It feels a lot like Civ 5 in that with an expansion or two to flesh it out, it could be a robust entry in the series. If you wanted to play Civilization 5 with some Alpha Centauri influences or a bit more role-playing, this more than scratches that itch. It's a game about consumption and expansion and conflict, and if running a mighty empire in pursuit of those goals sounds enjoyable, this game offers a wonderful sandbox to do it in.
And I think there is some constructive criticism in here, but it's embedded in so much visceral and just disgust and annoyance and dismissiveness that it's hard to find, but it's trying to find it.
I would say it's kind of like sacred cow tipping is what he's doing, to use a Midwest kind of idea. He's pushing Civ over, pushing BE over, and going, ha, look at moves. And we're all supposed to be like, I'm a big fan of the series. Thank you for this deconstruction. I see that I've been wrong these years, and I've been playing a bad game. Thank you. Is what I think he wants from someone like me, who's a big fan of Civ.
The only response that's coming to mind right now is your mom.
Yeah, exactly. It's the same thing like I'm like, I'm going to send you an email. I'm like, I will not do it.
I guess my point is, all the stuff he brought up, and you alluded to it, it does sound like he just trolled the forums looking for negative commentary, and we've already talked about all of that stuff before, because obviously it's on our forums. So we've talked about how people have felt about the game. So I'm more interested in negative comments about the game from people who actually play the game than negative comments about the game from somebody whose opinion didn't even include the game.
He reminds me of some people that criticize, like, say, Dungeons and Dragons back in the 80s. I never played it, but I hear it's horrible and bad for you.
Yeah.
You know, we're always trying to find ways to get more people into the Civilization communities and to keep them in the Civilization communities. And when there's ideas like this that are out there, okay, we're going to respond. We're not looking for a dialogue, but it's essentially he's taken the time to put this argument together, and we're going to give our response to say that, okay, we've looked beyond just the Civ forums to essentially see people who are already in the community. And I agree that should be our primary focus. With people who are playing the games and arguably even wanting to play the games are saying that's negative, but just every now and again say, so what are other people saying about Civilization? And for us to be able to say, okay, we're aware, Errant Signal, what you're saying, and you're entitled to your view, but this is not only why we think that your view is not correct, but again, it's not just what you say, but it's how you say it, and maybe your views would be taken a little more seriously if your approach was a bit more balanced to the criticisms that you are espousing.
Well, he loses some credibility by his contempt for the series. And I know that sounds harsh, but for me, a person has to be neutral to neutral minus neutral plus for me to take the deconstruction completely seriously and sit down and do counterpoints and email them back.
Criticism, if it's constructive, okay, we're going to engage in it. I kind of paid more attention to it than anything because he talked about Civilization in general before and we addressed that. And now in the same year, a new Civ title has come out and he's kind of followed up. Okay, I'm going to give you another chance. And then you kind of, well, more than just kind of, you just essentially repeat
the same thing,
as it were. So we've given you the second chance. And now that you've the second chance, unless your view changes, we know where you stand and you know where we stand and we can go on.
There's a famous quote about that, the whole learn from history or be doomed to repeat it.
Exactly.
If he's doing his own history, he should remember, I would think.
Oh, maybe because Beyond Earth is set in the future, he forgot.
Yes, it was a time travel accident. Justify for him. But I will watch more of his stuff. I assume it's a him, but basically I don't know anybody on the team if they've got more than one person working on it.
His name is Christopher Franklin. And he does say, where he says, quote unquote, find humanity and heart in cold, indifferent video game systems since 2011.
Ooh.
So there's the perspective he's coming from. Civilization is a cold, indifferent video game system. Well then, if you're looking for the negative, you're probably going to find it.
Call in today. In North America, the number is 301-637-7659.
That's 301-637-POLY.
In Europe, 44121-288-7659. That's 44121-288-POLY.
The only thing worse than being talked about is not being talked about.
For more information on PolyCast,
our sibling shows Modcast, Revcast, and Turncast,
or about PolyCast in general,
log on to the series' official website at thepolycast.net.
Me, the person that I was at the time, I was so interested in trying to be conscientious and, make a good impression that because I didn't complain, I was the guy that ended up playing these horrible games for a really long time. We had these games that we were testing, but we did not have a good system for handling the bugs and stuff like that. We used to use Lotus Notes was our bug tracker. Wait, I'm not done.
Record Days Assorted, 2014. Dice Europe 2014 clips, copyright Variety. Firaxicon clips, copyright 2K Games. Errant Signal clips, copyright Chris, Errant Signal, Franklin. Civilization 4, 5, and Beyond Earth sound clips, copyright Take-Two Interactive.
Copyright Civilized Communication at civcom.net.